This dwarf has several problems, and a disappearing beard is one of them. Welcome back to the Speed Boost Study. I am your host, Camixs, and today we're going to be starting off with our investigation with my Dwarven Death Knight friend. Seriously, what is going on with his face? Balgrun Steelrune. Hey Balgrun, are you there? You want to give a hello and a wave to the audience? Damn it, now I have to do that intro again. Sorry guys, Balgrun tried to get out of the video by offing himself. Little did he know it's not that easy. I actually have his family held for ransom right now, so if he wants to actually, see them again, he's gonna have to do what I want. That's just how it goes. But anyway, guys, welcome back to the Speed Study. Death Knights are our primary targets today. If you haven't seen the introduction for this Speed series, please feel free to take a look at the video up above. I'll be sure to have that in a card or somewhere for you to take a look at. Link off to it. I highly recommend you watch that first, so that way you're not confused as to what we're exactly doing. Because I'm not going to cover everything that I did in that video and this video, because that would just be pointless in my mind. I am not an expert at this department. This is for fun, and I'll try to be as accurate as possible. But crucify me not in the comments, or, do, I guess. I mean, it is a YouTube video, do whatever you want, you guess. It's not like I can stop you or anything. That last bit, honestly, is probably going to ruin my search history, because I looked for some obligatory stuff in order to actually find a comments are disabled video. Oh boy. I'm going to be expecting to see some of that stuff later on, and let me tell you something, I'm probably going to be pretty scared when I see it. But in any case, we're going to go ahead and get into the video, straight into it, guys. We're going to start off by giving a small overview, followed by listing off our classes and enhancers, and we're going to wrap it all up with the actual test. So, with that being noted, let's get started. Death Knights, one of the strongest plate-wearing classes in the game. What mother didn't have to drag away their 12-year-old child from this edgy and mysterious class on its opening day? With their mixture of both dealing damage and tanking with the complexity of being their own self-healing machine? No, seriously, try killing a Blood Death Knight. You're gonna be there for 50 years plus taxes on the soul. It's no wonder these guys have become a staple in the game's history. Released with the Wrath of the Lich King expansion of the game, the Death Knight class is known for being the first hero class that took the game by storm, with its effective style that no other class could really emulate. Sure, most classes had the oomph of damage a Death Knight could deal out, but the ability to raise an undead companion to fight at your side, as well as the kick-ass Death Knight quest zone, made this class almost irresistible to some veteran players looking for a new style of dealing damage with weapons. The Death Knight class can be identified as a hybrid of spellcasting and melee damage, and has seen many changes throughout its time in the game, including a switch in specs, where early on, the Frost spec in the game was originally the tank spec, while the Blood spec took more to a DPS role. These two were eventually switched, mostly due to how Blood's mechanics actually favored that iconic, self-healing role that we know about today's Death Knights. And with all these changes implemented in the game, you'd better believe that the mobility of a Death Knight has also been affected big time by Blizzard's meddling of the classes. Death Knights are interesting in the sense that their mobility actually comes from what I classify as negative movement speed. In a nutshell, this means that the class of the Death Knight is actually able to catch up with their foes based off their ability to slow down and even stop their opponent, rather than being a true blue mobile class. For instance, a Blood Death Knight has the ability such as Heart Strike, which slows down an opponent's speed by 20%, and Gorfiend's Grasp, which pulls an opponent to whatever target you're using it on. Frost has an ability called Chains of Ice, which slows the movement speed of the target by 70% for 8 seconds, as well as having Remorseless Winter, which reduces the speed of a target by 20% when in range of its AoE effects. Unholy also gets Chains of Ice, although aside from that, their ability to slow down opponents is a little more limited. But they do get Death's Reach as an pickable talent, which increases the range of Death Grip by 10 yards. Oh yeah, did I mention all of these specs get Death Grip? An ability that pulls the target back to being in front of you, meaning if they get away, just use a Death Grip and you're back to doing some gnarly damage. But in terms of their own mobility, the Death Knights really don't have much going on for them. They have two primary abilities we can go over. Firstly, there's Death Advance, which increases your movement speed by 30% for 8 seconds, but also makes it to where you can't fall under 100% movement speed while using this ability. And to top it all off, Death Knights get this ability the second they create a character. Yes, the ability lands right on your bar. No talents needed to learn, no specializations needed to switch to, it's available on the player right away. Then there's Wraith Walk, which increases your movement speed by 70% for 4 seconds. This makes it to where your character can't be pulled underneath 170% movement speed for that duration. Basically, you can't be slowed. The problem is this ability has to be picked in the talent tree. Every specialization can learn this ability at level 75, but sacrifice 2 other abilities for the chance of increased mobility. This is really it for Death Knights. No enhancers, nothing to assist the speed boost abilities, it's just these 2. Which actually makes this video fairly simple in terms of what I have to go over. But before we get into that, let's take a look at our setup. The way I set up a test is using a few of the in-game abilities, combined with some of the simple mathematics that will help us determine exactly what I need to get the most accurate yards for speed. Now, as I mentioned in the introduction of this series, I need a base range of yards to go off in order to get an accurate number of yards. A class covers for distance. I decided to go with a base range of 30 yards, as basically all classes have the ability to use something at a 30-yard range. For this particular video, I chose to go with Death Grip as my guinea pig yard range. Its 30 yards would give me enough information needed to get the best numbers out of the study. Along with that, I set up macros to help me experiment and move smoothly, so I get the best time for when I reach that dummy that I'm using to calculate this range. Also, remember the introduction where I said I'd be using footsteps to help get the distance? Well, I come to realize it's a stupid idea, and threw it out. I know I just told you to watch the introduction 3 times, but seriously, this method I'm about to use is much better. Basically, I'm going to run up to my target for 30 yards, and using a stopwatch, I will see how long it takes to get there. Then, once I have that number, I'll be able to use it to cover the rest of the distance I should have gone. An example being, if it takes me 4 seconds to cover 30 yards, and the ability is 8 seconds long, then we can safely assume that the final 4 seconds will also be another 30 yards. With these numbers, we can then break down how much ground you can cover into a speed formula, and determine the final movements of the character. So with that in mind, let's set ourselves up 30 yards away from the dummy we'll be using. I try my best to line up my character square on with this abomination, which I must say, he's all too happy to be standing here right now. But that training dummy over there, well, let's just say I wanted to use him as my tender for my classic WoW character. Stupid dummy. Anyway, my Death Grip range counter works based off of how far away I am from the target. So I slowly move back until I eventually end up getting just out of the white indicator range, then slowly move myself forwards until the reticule indicates I can use the ability once more. For this first test, I'm going to be looking at Death Advance, the 30% speed movement over 8 seconds, and determining how much distance, speed, and time it covers. I set myself up and press the macro that starts to watch, auto run, and speed boost all at once, and find out that once the 30 yards is over, I end up reaching the dummy at roughly 3.3864 seconds estimated, give or take. I say 3.4 because the timer, well, it says 3 seconds, holds that 3 seconds for some time, and I used an outside timer to double check the timestamps on it. And you might be thinking, you only did 1 test on this? Don't worry, I did like 5 tries. In fact, here's a small montage of my frantic running around on the map. But in all seriousness, these are the numbers I got from my double check stopwatch. Notice that most of these tries fall between 3.3 seconds and 3.7 seconds. All I'd need to do is take the average of these numbers, and if you don't know how to do that, it's very simple. You just add all the numbers together and then divide the numbers by the samples you have. In this case, we have 5 samples. So you'll add all 5 of these and then divide them by 5 to get the average of 3.3864. Or if we want to get an estimate on it, we could say 3.4 seconds, since you'd round out the 8 to get the 4. I'll be completely honest, the math comes pretty simple from here. In order to get the speed, you'd simply have to take these 2 numbers, 30 yards, the distance we went, and divide it by 3.4, the time it took to get there. The number ends up being 8.823529, but this number right here is your speed in total. And in case you don't believe me, this is how you would check your work. If you take that number you have and multiply it by the remaining 4.6 seconds you need to finish the equation, which totals up to the 8 seconds for Death Advance, you'll get a total number of 40.5881. So many numbers! That number is your remaining distance because speed multiplied by time equals distance. So you end up taking that remaining quadrant of time and add it to the 30 that we've already established. This will come out to roughly 70.5881. I'm not doing this again. You know what? You can go figure out. You take that number, you divide it by 8. The number of seconds on Death Advance, and your total will be 8.823529, which is the speed total that you essentially started off with. Meaning that the final thing that we'll really be trying to find here is the total distance. I was honestly surprised when I started doing this because I didn't think it would be that simple, but as it turns out, basic formulas have basic answers. With that problem solved, we truly know the precise speed, distance, and time of the move Death's Advance. One down, one to go. Next movement speed we'll cover is Wraith Walk. This ability is essentially a 70% movement speed for 4 seconds. We'll use the same numbers and rules as we used with Death Advance. Set the character 30 yards away, have the macro ready, and auto fire once we're good to go. And keep the timer going until we stop. Once more the timer goes, and this time, instead of getting a 3.4 seconds, I get closer to 2.4876 second intervals, or an estimate 2.5 seconds. Cue the footage of the Death Knight Wraith Walk.
Hey, I'm ready to test Wraith Walk. Let's go, come on. Let's go. I can confirm, cats are faster than Wraith Walk. Geez, I'm out of shape.
As previously shown with Death Advance, here are the numbers that I generated with my secondary stopwatch. The low point is usually towards 2.3 seconds to 2.7 at the highest. Add these up, divide them by 5, and you'll have an approximate answer of 2.5 seconds. With this number, we can use it to complete the puzzle. 30 yards over 2.5 seconds roughly comes out to 12 yards over time. Once more, we have the speed, now to finish the distance. We'll take the 12 and multiply it by the remaining 1.5 seconds to get the 4 seconds we want to replicate. This total comes out to 18 yards. We'll take this 18 and add it to our already established 30 yards, making it a total of 48 yards. And just to check out our work, we can take this 48 and divide it by 4 and get the total speed of 12 yards per second. That sums up our 2 current game movements. The results are in. Overall, Death's Advance covers more ground at about a 70.58 yards versus the 48 yards that Wraith Walk covers. That's about a 22.58 yard difference. In terms of speed, however, Wraith Walk takes the cake, quickly toppling over Death Advance with a 12 yard per second to 8.82 yards per second. This totals out to be about a 13.8 yards per second advantage. So, is Death Advance better than Wraith Walk? Honestly, the 2 abilities have circumstances in which one is better than the other. You definitely can cover more ground with Death Advance, and counted with the fact that you can't be pulled below an average 100% speed with it while you're using it is quite useful. On top of that, unlike Wraith Walk, the ability is automatically available to the player the second you boot up a new character. Meanwhile, Wraith Walk essentially gives you a short burst of speed that is guaranteed while using it. It is, however, a 1 minute cooldown versus the Death Advance's 45. Wraith Walk also has to be spec'd into at level 75. Not that it really matters, it's easy to level up in the game, but still, some of those abilities at the 75 talent tree may prove to be more useful to your character. Ultimately, I'd have to say Death's Advance is better overall, as its ability to be useful, more accessible, and yard coverage can be valuable to the team. On the other hand, Wraith Walk can be crucial in certain situations where you need that burst of speed to catch up to a foe. But of course, we're calculating speed. If we're being technical about it, Wraith Walk won this battle. But I want to know what you think. Comment down below which Death Knight ability you believe is more superior. And if you enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe because I have more content coming your way. Follow my Twitter over here and follow my Twitch over here if you want to see what I'm doing besides YouTube content. We'll be looking to get Demon Hunters done next week. So as always, thank you all for watching. Good night, sleep tight, and don't let the training dummy bite. But no, seriously, fuck that stupid training dummy.